Yo, welcome to this week's anime review where I'll be talking about the sports anime Haikyū. So when it comes to sports anime, I'm very limited on my knowledge of the genre. I only really have watched Megalobox and Blue Lock. So when my brother came to me with the idea of watching season one of volleyball anime, I was a little bit apprehensive just because I don't know anything about volleyball. I only really know, I don't know any key players. I really only know when it comes to the Olympics, and that's even women's volleyball. I never really heard of men's volleyball being as prominent as it's showcased in the show. So yeah, that was really the only part that I was a bit apprehensive of, just because I didn't have any knowledge on like even how to play the game. I know you have to, spike the ball, score on the other side, make sure the other team doesn't like hit the ball back. But I had really a limited knowledge on the genre of the sport. But yeah, I gotta say, I think the show does a very good job at explaining the rules of volleyball, and especially when it comes to positioning. So before I get into my actual review of the show, I just want to say this will feature a little bit of spoilers. It's a sports anime, so I feel like I do feel a little relieved that I don't have to like any spoilers that I've come across so far, which has been very limited. I think I saw like a manager that was gonna get introduced or something. It's not like another anime. It's not like Attack on Titan where it's like, oh my god, so and so dies, or even a Death Note where, oh my god, so and so died. I have to worry about here. You know what I'm saying? They're all playing volleyball, so. But I will go into spoilers for the review. So if you haven't seen season one, I highly recommend it. And yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so the story follows Shoyo Hanada, who's a middle schooler who's obsessed with volleyball, so much to the point where he kind of practices with, they call it the aunties, but like the women volleyball team, and he gets practice anywhere he can because the team is so small at his school that he has to practice, by himself most of the time. You see him kind of be a bit of a loner, but not by design. He definitely would want to be social and stuff like that. It's just no one's really into volleyball like that at his school. We then go to one of the final games of his middle school year, where we get introduced to Tobio Kageyama, who was known at the time as the king of the court. And I thought that was really, really cool the way anytime you'd see Tobio, you would see flashes of like him dressed as a king, because they would call him king of the court, which in my head, I always thought it was just he's a cold player, a badass player. It wasn't until I realized what position he played. And then we kind of see throughout the season that he was more of a, they call him like a dictator, more of just a kind of very strict person who's, you could really say a perfectionist when it comes to the sport of volleyball. I will say I think episode one did a fantastic job at getting me hooked into the sport of volleyball. Specifically, they have the little interaction in the restroom before the game, and then during the game. Hanada's team is very, very like, doing poorly. Mostly because none of them like know or want to play the sport of volleyball. It's more of like they have to play the sport of volleyball. And Hanada's really the only one that has like that energy to keep going, even though they're getting like blown out. We then see that Hanada is not only a really quick learner, but a very, when he jumps up and spikes the ball down, that first time is insane. And I got to be honest with you, it's a reoccurring thing in the show, especially when you get later on into the show and you get introduced to the school that he ends up being at, and the whole crow theme, the whole bird theme that they have over there. He could fly, he really can fly high, and it's always impressive. Anytime he does it in the show, I get hyped. Anytime you see his little ass jump up and like spike the ball, it's something that like never gets old for me, at least. It's almost like seeing Goku do like a Kamehameha. You know what I'm saying? It just never gets old. I'm always hyped to see it. I'm always hyped to see the people he goes against expressions on their face, because they're all kind of shocked. They all have that same face, like, whoa. Even the schools that are rated high are always shocked at seeing his ability to jump up high. And I'm 6 feet, so I've never had a problem being like on the shorter side, but I can't jump like that. I'll be honest with you. I can't even dunk a basketball, so shout out to Hanada. But yeah, as the first game wraps up, Hanada and Kageyama kind of talk after the game and just kind of say that like we'll play each other again, I'll see you again type of stuff. And they're both kind of like, Kageyama's like, I'll defeat you again, and Hanada's like, I will beat you for the first time. And we assume that Kageyama wasn't gonna be was gonna go to a different school, a higher rated school, a powerhouse as they say, but he ends up being at the same high school that Hanada's at. The two end up bumping heads again, questioning why he's there, saying that he couldn't get in. And the show's really funny, man. I'll be honest with you. Like the comedy on this is hilarious, which I think you need to have, especially when it comes to a sports anime. I think it's a key point. So our two guys apply to be on the volleyball team and end up going to see the team after practice. We are then introduced to three main people of the team who end up being stable characters of the show. I wrote them down, so if my pronunciation is bad, please don't judge me in the comments. First being Daichi, which is the team captain. Koshi Sugawara, which is the setter and eventually being the former setter of the volleyball team. Then Ryu Tanaka, which I'm so glad he's in this because I said it in the Blue Lock review way back when, which was I think my first review on the channel actually. How animes always have that one bald character. You know, I'm thinking Connie on Attack on Titan. I don't even know Homeboy's name on Blue Lock. It's been so long, but there's always a character who's bald who has like a fade. And he's not really bald, but he has like a bald fade. I'm so glad we got one of them here because it just keeps pushing that trope, and it's a trope that I like. Honestly, it's cool just because like they send out more, and they're usually like a very funny character, and Ryu is very, very hilarious on the show. But yeah, after talking to Daichi, the team captain, he then tells them that they need to learn how to work together before they can actually join the team. And right off the hop, I love this set of people we're introduced to, these characters. They're very charming, especially like I said earlier, Hanada. Hanada is a guy that like, he's so hopeful and inspirational and positive. He's a very positive guy, you know, which I feel like is different from what I've seen in other sports anime, honestly. It might be like, I don't want to say generic or anything like that, but like when I was watching Megalobox, Boxer Joe or Joe, he isn't the most, upbeat, positive guy. He can be, especially, I haven't even finished season 2, but he's very like, he's just super depressed in that one. But, he's kind of like a very, realist kind of person. So you never really see that overly positive guy out of him, especially in season 1 at least. And also Asagi from Blue Lock, he isn't overly positive. He can be at certain times. He's very passionate about soccer, but I don't know if I would put him on the same wavelength as like a Hanada. Hanada just seems like Goku, like SpongeBob SquarePants, like these overly positive people that just bring a whole new life to the show. And you see how hopeful he is and how what's the word, and just seeing how hopeful he is really sells you on the show because you want this guy to succeed. You don't want him to, you see his frustrations whenever he lost a game in middle school, and then you see his frustrations throughout the season as they lose practice games here and there. I do want to talk about a couple of other key members in the team. First being Azumani Asai, which was the ace of the team that ended up quitting after being shut out of their final game last year. When it comes to playing competitive sports, especially in school or academic sports, the only sport that I ever played in school was wrestling. And even though it is an individual sport, I will, that team companionship and that kind of like teamwork mind did apply, especially when it came to practice, especially when it came to setting things up because we had limited resources like crazy. So whenever, that you see the Ace's backstory on how he got shut out, in wrestling, there's two ways to lose. You could lose by points and you could lose by pinfall. And there's also another way called being teched. And being teched is like the worst thing ever. That means that there is, I believe, a 15-point gap in between you and your opponent. Meaning that basically, like, as soon as the match, like, you never had a chance. You feel me? Like, he was just a super, super high-level person. I've been teched, I think, twice when I was wrestling. And one of the worst feelings ever because you really feel like you said, you just got shut out. You just feel like you never had a chance to begin with. You never got started even. So I did feel him on that, how, whenever we're introduced to him, he's kind of in class. He's very, like, to himself. He's kind of, like, keeping space between him and volleyball. Just because of the experience of last game that he had whenever he got shut out and wasn't able to make a single point. Then we have Yu Nishinoya, the libero, who actually like was suspended because he confronted the ace of the team and saying, why aren't you playing volleyball this year? What's going on? That doesn't matter. I'm gonna make sure that doesn't happen. I got your back. Like, how come you don't understand that I have your back? And I love when he popped up on the scene because he really brought a different energy to the team and kind of picked everyone up. Because I believe they lost a practice game before that. It was so many episodes. I will say that 25 episodes, eesh, but it is what it is. I think they kind of flew by, and I enjoyed the pacing of the show in general, to be honest with you. But yeah, I believe they lost the game, and then he's introduced, and you kind of see flashes of him like with the broomstick after you see the confrontation, or before you see the confrontation that he had with the ace of the team after the game. I thought that was a really nice thing to include in the show because it just shows the mentality and like how heavy sports could be to youth, especially when it comes to academic sports and sports in school and stuff like that. They get into it a little bit more in season 2, but you really see how like heavy and how high student athletes put the sport that they're playing, in their head. This is another guy we were introduced to. I'm gonna fuck his name up, but Kei Tsukishima. He's a guy with glasses, a really tall guy, dickhead, super super like annoying, just like rude, dickhead. Who I mean, I actually just saw. I'm in the middle of season 2 right now, so I saw an episode that's very focused on him that kind of gave me a little bit more appreciation for him. But as far as season 1 version of him, yeah, he's kind of a dickhead. He's kind of a guy who's like a little bit cocky, confident person. He kind of blows a lot of things off, which is an interesting trait, especially because everyone else on the team is very much like, we're gonna do this, we got this, and he's just kind of like along for the ride, like, all right, fuck it, we got to do it, we got to do it. I mentioned it earlier about them being, crows, flightless crows, or wingless crows and fallen champions, which are fallen champions is like a pretty hard name. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, and even their clothes all black. I'm a big fan of the aesthetic of their team and how they just stand out from everyone else. But yeah, seeing the team dynamic and how they have to go against rival schools and stuff like that. One of them being I believe it was Nekomo, the cat. They're like named after cats or some shit like that. Cat versus crow, the old like rivalry, which I thought was pretty cool. Another one being this pretty boy named Toru Akiawa. Who like is like a super like swagged out person when we're first introduced to him. I do like that, like, we see him being like this very suave, sophisticated kind of guy, a cold player. He's a setter as well. Who Kageyama actually knew from before. He used to like be his underling almost. Like he would like be his like senpai, I guess you could say. But I do like the fact that like he's cool, but he's not too. It sounds lame as hell, but he's not too cool for school. If that's I don't know. That's like the fucking. I don't know what that means, but meaning that like he's still a goofball. You know what I mean? And his teammates don't really see him that way. So when he first pops up on the scene, we're all kind of like, oh my god, this guy's like, the aura is incredible, aura farming. And then he like flubs up or he messes up or like he says something like trying to be cool, and then people just call him out for it. Like that was kind of lame. And he just gets embarrassed, which I thought was a pretty cool dynamic. He's not just he's not just like OP as hell, where like he never loses. You know what I'm saying? He could take an L and he could take things like that. So I thought that was cool. I thought it made him like a little more dimensional. Yeah, but throughout the season, you kind of see Hanada and Kageyama, pushing each other to their limits, kind of, mastering this quick set that they have that's able to like blindside a lot of their opponents. Which is like low-key a cheat code. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like their opponents can adjust to it in time. It's very much a cheat code, and they start racking up points like crazy. We see our guys at this tournament. They end up passing the first, I don't want to say first leg, but first round of the tournament, where they win 2 sets back to back. That's the other thing. There's sets involved and stuff like that. I had no idea. I thought once a team scored a certain score, it was done. They are then pitted against the Pretty Boy School, which I believe is Joshi or something like that, which is Oba Josai, with the team that has the Pretty Boy on it. And man, that game was incredible. You know what I'm saying? And one thing I haven't talked about so far in the review is the animation. Animation has been on point. It's been on point, but season 1 to this is crazy. And I'm used to people giving Blue Lock a lot of shit because they call it like PNG lock, and I never really minded it, honestly. Whenever I'd watch Blue Lock, I was more focused on the story and how they would progress it. So I didn't mind it too much. But I will say, watching this compared to Blue Lock, at times Blue Lock could reach this level, but man, I think this one has the most quality throughout. I mean, these guys, even when they're just kind of like in school, in class, walking around, or even setting things up for practice, it looks very, very sharp. One thing that's like a small detail, but even the reflection on the court, whenever they're just practicing, is always there. It's always present. So high praise to Haikyū for that. Animation wise, they really go hard, especially when it came to this last game that they had with, I'm just gonna call them the Pretty Boy School, to be honest with you. And after many adjustments and many back and forths with the scoring, close scoring, our boys fall and they end up failing, and they lose the season finale to the Pretty Boy School. And you kind of see, Kageyama and I gotta get his name right, man, because he is a major like player in this shit. And Toru, I'm gonna call him Toru. We kind of see Kageyama and Toru's kind of like minimal rivalry, you know what I'm saying, where Kageyama will say some shit and then he'll kind of like take it and be like, all right, you know what I'm saying, that kind of back and forth. Friendly competition, nothing too disrespectful, which I could always respect. Which I thought was very, very interesting. And even like Hanada was like very much hyped as hell and wanting to get this dub. And, you know, I asked my brother this after the show was done, you know, what loss hurts more? You know, a loss where you get blown out and you never really had a chance, you never really got a chance to get started, or a loss where it was down to the wire and then you lost. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I can't really. I can see both sides. People saying that, like, you know, you get blown out. It's like you never even had a chance. You're not even at that level. So I guess that would be worse because but in a way, it's like, all right, I've felt that level. I could at least like aspire to it. And the other one just seems so heartbreaking, bro. Heartbreaking. Especially like once you see that ball drop and no one's there to get it, you're just kind of like, ah. And I was just like, God damn it. I was just like, dude, a very, very tough loss, especially for like Daichi and Sugawara and the Ace, because they're seniors. So like this is going to be one of their last tournaments, you know? So seeing their reaction to it was really kind of like, oh my God, like a tough loss. And even after the game, like they go out to eat and they're all like not really saying anything. They're just kind of enjoying their food, but like kind of eating in silence, which is a thing that we used to do in wrestling where like whenever the second day of the tournament's over, you go out to eat, stuff like that. I go to Subway and shit like that, just kind of hang out. And, you know, we would never really talk about wrestling. At least I didn't. Like outside of like the tournament. I mean, every once in a while we would kind of mention like, oh, well, we have this one coming up, we have that one coming up, but it's never like we would never fixate on it. It'll always just be like, you know, thank you for the food to my coach. Shout out to Coach Wheeler if you're watching this, and Miyamoto. But yeah, man, it was never like overly fixated on like wrestling like while we were eating. We're just kind of like decompressing from everything, which I like that they included that. I really, really enjoyed that they included that. One thing I do want to say is we see a bit of it, and I saw more of it in season 2, honestly, because I think I'm on episode 10. But after the game, you know, we kind of see Kageyama and Hanada kind of confront each other. Kageyama kind of blaming himself a little bit, and then Hanada kind of like their frustrations with the game, you know what I mean? And you just really see their frustrations with the game. And I believe this is season 1 still. Hopefully I'm not talking about anything in season 2 yet, but whenever you kind of see them come back to school and they're just very, very like pissed off that they lost. They still feel that loss on them. They can't focus in school. You know what I'm saying? They're kind of like, you know, daydreaming, you know, during school. And they're kind of even talking about like whenever Hanada and Kageyama meet at the volleyball team or the volleyball court, he even tells them like, yo, the tournament should be wrapping up right now, huh? And Kageyama just kind of like, yeah, like it's right now about this time it should be done. So just them knowing that like they're not there was like messing with them. And then just seeing their frustrations and both of them kind of like letting out tears and stuff like that was very, very, I think it's very much like, was very much appreciated just because like I was never really an over emotional person, just in general, but like even when it came to sports, until I lost my last match in wrestling. Once I got eliminated and I was like, whoa, I realized that like, you know, once you lose your last match as a senior, that was the only time I like let out some tears because I was like, wow, this thing that I put so much effort in was like done. And you kind of feel that with like some of the senior players on the team, which I get into in season 2, but for Hanada and Kageyama to feel that kind of way, I appreciated it just because it was very realistic. Those kind of overly passionate people. You look at a guy like Daniel Cormier from the UFC, and people always say like, oh, you know, he a crybaby. He cried after his loss. But dude, I mean, you got to imagine the hours and hours he's putting into the sport, you know, just to like fall short could be incredibly frustrating. So I really appreciated them showing that, and then showing them run around the court. I mean, this man like climbed the second floor, which why is there a second floor in the volleyball thing? I have no idea. Also, why is everything barred up, like the clock and like other stuff like that? I have no idea, but you know, I'll ask less questions, but that always throws me off. But anyway, and then Kageyama also yelling, and then the rest of the team kind of pulling up and like having a practice, just kind of lift everyone's spirits was like pretty important. I thought they ended the season on a very, very positive note. A bittersweet, you know what I mean, note, but I thought it was fantastic. But yeah, guys, that's gonna do it for this review. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully it wasn't too long. I think I went a little long-winded. I haven't done one of these in a while, so I wanted to get all my thoughts out. Um, Fantastic show. Highly recommend it. Animation wise, quality. And I heard there's movies after this. So I think whenever I'm done with the seasons, there's actually like a movie or two after this. And I think there's two more on the way. So I'm curious. I'm really, really like interested to see what the animation, how much it could like level up in the movies. I think that's usually the thing. You look at the movies of like Dragon Ball Z and they're very like super peak compared to like the normal animation and like Super and stuff. So I'm interested in that. Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, I'm in the middle of season 2 right now. I think I'm on episode 11, episode 10. I'm enjoying it so much. I would never have guessed I would enjoy a volleyball anime as much as I'm doing right now, but I'm rooting for these guys, bro. I'm rooting for this team that we're on. I'm part of the team too, shit. You know what I'm saying? I'm rooting for him. You guys, my brother, like on the sideline, on the couch. I'm cheering for him. So very curious to see where they go in season 2 as far as just the academic year. And, you know, after that, because, you know, they kind of mentioned in season 2, but like the seniors are like one of the main staples of the team. And they're all leaving after this year, after this like next tournament, which I don't know, man. I'm interested to see where they take it. And if we get introduced to any new characters, in season 2. I've seen some that we've been introduced to, but like even more because like I said, I'm only like 10 episodes in. But yeah, that's gonna do it for the review, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please let me know your thoughts down below. If you guys are fans of Haikyū, please let me know what got you into it. What did you think of season 1? Or if you haven't, please go and watch it and come back because I highly, highly recommend it. I think it's very much worth your time and just something that's like very a little upbeat. You know, it's very positive compared to everything else. Especially everything that's going on in the world right now. I feel like being able to watch this with my brother at the end of the workday, hang out, watch like 2-3 episodes, super, super necessary and super, super positive. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.